Welcome to video 7. Remember to like and subscribe to my videos. I appreciate it very much. We have the best videos here in America, and we have to like and subscribe to continue to have the best videos in the country, in the world, in the universe. Anyway, I hope you enjoy video number 7. We're going to talk about replacing hull plugs, rebuilding impeller pumps, repairing communications cables or communications ports, and replacing engine mounts when needed.
Another item was the drain plug for the hull. My plug was busted off. You can find lots of aftermarket ideas, replacement plugs that just screw in. I was trying to get back to, showroom new, with the original parts as close as I could get. So once again, it was an eBay idea. I purchased the whole assembly because you can see it. The OEM assembly has a little piece that holds itself in there. Fairly simple O-ring, 2 nuts. Take it out. I think I had to pry it out with a screwdriver, maybe a little bit, or a pry bar, and pop the new one back in. Nothing to it. Another eBay win. A few bucks, probably 20. All right. Eventually, you'll have to rebuild the impeller. I did that on one of my 2 skis. The impeller is your boat impeller, the thing that actually moves the ski in the water. That's what the engine's actually turning. It's inside there. You have to remove the whole pump assembly. That's 2 bolts on that side, 2 bolts on that side, the reverse cable, the steering cable, the O-pass bolts. Whole thing will come out, and then you'll have to do the intermediary bolts and remove the hood from the impeller. Oh, also, there's a hose. I don't know if you can see. Put it in reverse. There we go. You also have to disconnect this hose. When you get it out, you take these 4 bolts out. There's one. The other 3 are opposite corners. And that'll split the 2 pieces in half, your cone from your impeller. I wish I had a recording for when I rebuilt the pump, because there's a lot to show in there, and I'll do the best description I can with the exploded view drawing next. But what I have here is the old angled bearing. As you can see, it was pretty rusted up, and I ripped all the internals out and kept it because it actually worked as a way for me to pound in the new bearing. It's obviously the same size. One thing to keep in mind is to make your life as easy as possible. Oh, you see my kitty. Leo's in the video. One thing to keep in mind is utilize your fridge and oven. Heat up the outside part, cool the inside part. Bearings and close fitting parts just play a lot nicer like that. So you can take the impeller shaft, stick it in the freezer, take the bearing, stick it in the oven, and it'll just boop. And if it doesn't do it just sliding, just a couple small taps with like a hammer or a socket, it'll just go right over, and voila. So always use that tool. Same thing when you got the impeller shaft and the bearing together. Now you got to put that whole assembly inside of the impeller housing. So heat the housing, cool the bearing and impeller shaft, and then put it together. All right. This is also where I used part of my old drive shaft. I cut off, the last few inches here, and you stick that into one side, the back end of the impeller, and then you need a size 12 hex key for the other side for my machine. And you could try putting it in a vise to hold it, and then using like a breaker bar to get the impeller to spin off. I want you guys to know that they use the red Loctite, and it is a mother to get that impeller to move if it's been on the ski for a while. Vise didn't do any good. I was on the floor with cheater bars and everything. What actually got me to the finish line is I put it on the hitch of my pickup. and I used a big pipe wrench around this end and had the other, I kind of had it through the hitch hole of where a ball would normally be. And I had the handle of the pipe wrench up against my spare tire underneath the pickup. And then on top of the housing where I had my R12 hex key on a breaker bar, 1/2 inch, I tell you, 1/2 inch. If you're going to go buy one, buy a 1/2 inch drive. Because I tell you what, I gave it everything and then some. And when it finally started to move, I swore I just sheared off the 1/2 inch drive, but I didn't. It was actually moving. But I could have swore I just sheared off that drive. So I don't know that a 3/8 would be trustworthy. Just if you're going to buy a size 12 hex key, do it. Just get the 1/2 inch. You will not regret it, and you may regret any other size. Well, unless it's bigger, of course. Best deal I could find on the size 12 hex key was at AutoZone, I believe. It was one of the auto parts stores. One of them had like a 3-pack set of bigger sizes as well as individuals. So that was really cool. I think $9 for one or $20 for 3. And then if you wanted a whole set of the bigger ones, it was like $40. So that's where I found them, because most all hex keys end at size 10 in the metric world for your typical offering. So you're looking for bigger ones, auto parts store. I'm sure you can find them on the internet. In this case, because of how much effort it took, buy one guaranteed, because if you buy something cheap and you shear it, you're kind of hosed. Whereas if you sheared that one from CarQuest or wherever I picked it up, AutoZone, I could have took it back. It was guaranteed for life. Lowe's and Home Depot did not go up to size 12. Once again, it stopped at 10. Only the car parts stores had it. Later. Hope you enjoy my hints and tips.
So this page is showing you an exploded view of 1/2 of the impeller shaft arrangement. You can see there's a cone with 2 O-rings, and then the impeller shaft itself, and then the large bearing that goes over it. Remember, use the fridge and oven. Then there's an O-ring and another collar part that goes on. Things to pay attention to is make sure you're filling it up with grease, that cone as well. The life of that bearing is dependent upon keeping all the water out of the impeller drive shaft area. Here's the second exploded view, the back half of the impeller and impeller shaft arrangement. Things to take note of here: somebody jammed the wrong size spacer in mine, that number 14. So I was happy to get a new one of those in my rebuild kit. I also got a new clip there, number 12. You just got to make sure that it all goes back in order there. One thing, number 11, that oil seal, the little rubber part in the center, it sticks out one direction. It should stick out towards the impeller, towards the outside of the unit. It should not be sticking in towards the inside. So you'll see it when you're looking at the part that rubber that sticks out in one direction, it goes to the outside towards the impeller itself.
We're going to be talking about the comms, where the buds or can-do computer hardware connects to the ski, so it can communicate back and forth and see error codes, reset maintenance things of that nature. And basically, that's what that connector is, right there. There, get it to zoom a little bit better. So there, you just disconnect it, and then you would connect it to your computer. However, in this particular ski's case, you can see one of the wires I had to repair because it had a open in it. Got cut or burned or something, I'm not exactly sure what. There's 6 circuits on the programming circuit for the computer connection, and I'll show you the schematic here shortly. You follow those through, you ohm everything out if you're having connection problems. Sure enough, the very last of the 6 circuits was the one that had the open in it for me, and then I repaired it. Worked like a champ. Maybe you noticed I also have a pressure gauge connected to the fuel line. Turns out I'm had a new problem crop up. It looks like the fuel pump's gone. So I was having some sputtering out on the lake or ocean, and so I connected the pressure gauge, gave it a run, and saw that it wasn't holding its 40 psi. It kept dropping, and below 20 it starts to cut out, especially at the higher RPMs above like 3,000. Tried the regulator because I happen to have one, and it didn't improve anything. I've already changed the filters, as you've seen, and like I said, I've had it running 5 or so times really well, no problems. I've cleaned the injectors, I checked the spark plugs, everything looks good. The only thing left is the fuel pump, so that's what's next on the list this weekend. Just a little added benefit, bonus there for you video watchers who watch my entire series.
Okay, I'll stay on this screen for a few minutes, well, maybe a minute or so. This is your schematic. This is how you can trace through your comms port if you're having problems. Over there on the lower left, you can see the 6-position connector I showed you in the video, and it shows you all 6 circuits where they're going, so you can ohm each side and make sure you have continuity. For example, that very first line all the way to the left with the words PU in it, that was the purple. That was the line that actually had an open and was cut or damaged on me. And you can see one end of it says 1-22. What that means is it was going to the number 1 connector. Right above it is number 2, and then right to the right is number 1. It's going to the 22nd position in there, so you can ohm from that spot all the way to the 5th pin on that Deutsch 6-position connector I showed you in the video. If you have continuity, that circuit's good. Continue that process through all of them. The only one, oh, and in case you don't know, number 1 and number 2 are those big connectors at the bottom below the fuse panels. So basically right below the programming, the computer connection port, you'll see it. The one difference is pin number 6. That wire, if you're going to continuity check it, actually goes over to the ECM unit. That's the unit mounted on top of the engine, and it tracks over to connector B26 or something. I can't quite read it. Hold on a second. Yeah, that's B24. What that means is on your ECM, one of the 2 connectors is A, one of them is B. B is the one on top. A is the one closer to the flat void empty area. You can kind of see that in the schematic print here. So you go to connector B, position 24, and pin 6, and you could ohm that out and see if that's got continuity. So basically that's how you do that. You would check continuity on all 6 circuits and make sure that the programmer is getting connected into the ECM or the other module. And if something is open, you need to correct it, and then your problem will probably be solved. If that doesn't solve any kind of computer connectivity issues, then it might be something a little more serious. Check fuses in the fuse panel. That's a possibility. And you could also potentially have a bad ECM or whatever they call the other module. I don't remember the name, but it could potentially be bad too. But never underestimate fuses, just broken wires. You would think like, how did that purple wire get broke like 3 inches down from the communications connector? I don't know, but it was. So anyway, hope that was helpful.
So this video is about the engine mounts. With all the hopping and popping these things do in the water, eventually over time the engine mounts do degrade and bust in 2. Let's see if we can find them there. I think that's one of them right there. Trying to see, you can see that or not. There's one on the front of the engine. That's where I'm looking at now, underneath that hose. Bolt on the top, 2 bolts on the bottom, and then there's 2 on the back of the engine, 1 on each side. One is kind of under that J pipe. Let's see if we can get eyeball of it. Not really, but one's under there, under the J pipe. And the other one is right in there, all the way kind of the opposite side of the back engine. Those are where your 3 mounts are. Hard to see in this video, but they're all built the same. Bolt on the top, 2 bolts on the bottom. 2 bolts on the bottom. I believe you need a 6 metric hex Allen kind of wrench. You may want to opt for a bit and put it on a ratchet because they're a bit tough to get out. This is what the front engine mount looks like when it's taken out. So you can see where the 2 bolts go in through the bottom and the one that goes into the top. Like I said, the bottom 2 I believe are size 6 hex keys, and then the bolt that goes in the top is just a standard bolt, probably size 13 if memory serves.
Well, that's video number 7. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, like and subscribe to my channel. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, and make me a happy man. Video 8 is coming at you next. Stay tuned.